Street Fighter 6's two biggest problems still have not been fixed, and Capcom is showing no signs of changing that anytime soon. Saludos mi gente, my name is Dream King, and today we are talking about the current state of Street Fighter 6.
This is... What? This is boring.
Capcom released a new patch for Street Fighter 6 a few days ago, and much to the surprise of the community, it did indeed include balance changes.
That's good.
Unsurprisingly to the community, however, this update only featured a handful of changes for a select few characters.
That's bad.
This patch did actually nerf Mai though,
That's good.
but the changes made didn't seem to target the main issues she's been causing, and some believe she walked away with a slap on the wrist.
That's bad.
Can I go now?
I'm not going to go too heavily into the changes or what the community thinks because that's been covered by a lot of other content creators already. But just as a quick recap, this balance patch introduced changes for Elena, Sagat, and Mai. Elena and Sagat both received buffs, while Mai received several nerfs. Elena's buffs include faster startup on her level 1 super, as well as the ability to gain super meter using follow-up attacks after level 1 super hits. Now, essentially juggle combos after her level 1 will build super bar for her. A couple of her special moves also saw pushback on hit and block reduced, increasing her ability to pressure the opponent when these attacks are used. Sagat saw buffs to some of his low attacks, including crouching medium kick and crouching light kick, with the former now having better frame advantage on hit, and the latter causing less pushback on hit and on block. He also saw various buffs to his light and medium Tiger Nexus special moves, including better forward movement on startup, which improves his combo ability, and more active frames on his back heavy punch, which improves his ability to anti-air with it. Overall, both characters received some nice buffs, nothing seemingly earth-shattering right now, but nice and definitely welcome improvements. Mai's fans were targeted again in this patch, and while they were technically nerfed, all of the changes made to her various versions of Fan Toss revolve around giving the opponent more drive gauge when parrying them. Yeah. So now when you parry or perfect parry the various versions of Mai's fans, you should end up in a better spot, drive gauge wise, as Capcom noted the reason for these changes was because Mai was too good at forcing people into burnout. And speaking of forcing burnout, Capcom also nerfed the drive gauge reduction her standing heavy punch does by 1000, so it will deplete less drive gauge from you when you block it, which again, not earth-shattering, but nice. Lastly, Mai is now left closer to the opponent after her forward throw in the corner, which makes it so that she can't also shimmy so easily during her throw loops. From my testing, this does seem to have the desired effect. However, this change also made it so that she now gets a manual walk-up throw loop, no forward dash needed, on characters with wider hurt boxes. This patch has been making a lot of waves within the FGC because of how underwhelming it is. And for what feels like one of the first times ever in history, it even got the Japanese Street Fighter community sharing their discontent for it on social media. From what I've seen, the two biggest points of contention for the Japanese scene are that the patch didn't change enough, and it also failed to nerf Ed, who Japanese pros feel is the #1 character in the entire game right now. At this point in time, Street Fighter 6 has really only received 3 major balance updates since its launch in 2023. The two most standout patches were the ones that came alongside Akuma back in May of 2024, and the one with Elena back in June of this year. But surprisingly, a fairly large update dropped on December 2nd, 2024, which implemented changes for everyone on the roster. There have been a lot of smaller patches over the course of the last 2 years as well, but most times they only brought about bug fixes or some actual adjustments for just a handful of characters. Now, that December 2024 patch actually pisses me off, and I'll explain why a little later. But before that, let's talk about what the developers have said about their approach to releasing major balance updates. In July 2023, Capcom said they would aim to release one big balance patch every year, and in doing so would try to ensure that they're careful not to release big updates close to major tournaments. This is done so as not to disrupt the competition, and okay, I can understand and appreciate that. But regardless, the Capcom Pro Tour should be mapped out with the opportunity for more than one big patch a year. At the very least, there should be an allocated window of time reserved for a mid-season checkup. If some things from the last big update are too oppressive, need adjustments, or some characters just aren't performing as well as they maybe ought to be, there should be a time for Capcom to make that happen. The patch that just dropped would have been a great time for a major update, but instead we got a very small patch with only 3 characters getting changes. And remember when I said the December 2024 patch pissed me off? Yeah, that's because Capcom literally did the exact thing I'm talking about last year. They released a big update with a lot of changes in December, which was a few months before Capcom Cup 11, and came a little over 6 months after the big Akuma update in May. That's perfect! Big update to start the season, another major update about halfway through the season, and a few months before Capcom Cup. Why didn't we get changes for everyone with the December 16th update that just dropped? The only reason I can think of is that the developers just didn't feel as though the game needed to be shaken up all that much at this time, and that the current balance is overall in a good spot. And I guess you could make an argument for the game's overall balance sans a few standout offenders, but the rest is just a tone-deaf view of the greater issue plaguing Street Fighter 6. And that issue is this. It feels like we're playing the same game we've been playing for the last 2+ years. And while newer DLC characters are launching with interesting playstyles and are breaking out from how the launch cast was designed, the initial roster characters still haven't seen major changes to move them further away from things like drive rush cancelable crouching medium kick and throw loops, and make them more in line with the newer characters. That creates a feeling of imbalance in terms of design philosophy, where it can sometimes feel like 2 different characters are almost playing 2 different games, and that is not helping the game's current situation at all either. And let me be clear, I am not suggesting the developers make changes just for the sake of making changes, but there are currently characters who could really use refinement or something new to give them more utility. And on that same train of thought, the game as a whole is at a point where it could really benefit from something new. We're about 2.5 years out from Street Fighter 6's June 2023 launch, and we haven't seen any significant additions made to the game mechanics or characters. We haven't had an Ultra 2, V-Trigger 2, V-Shift, nothing yet. And while I am most certainly not saying Street Fighter 6 needs to be more like Street Fighter 5, and don't you dare clip that out of context, what I am saying is that Capcom still hasn't added something to breathe new life into the game and encourage a new wave of exploration for characters. So what changes should even be made? I think it's hard to say with certainty because Street Fighter 6 is designed in such a way that if you tweak one thing, it could have serious trickle-down effects to a lot of other aspects of how the game works. But I will point out the things that stand out to me the most currently that I feel could use changes, but don't necessarily make up the entirety of what should be changed. Drive rush cancelable crouching medium kick should be scaled back for the launch cast and early DLC characters. Capcom has been moving away from making crouching medium kick drive rush cancelable with newer DLC characters, not all of them, but some, and I think they should take that same approach with some of the older fighters. I don't think it should be an instant removal for every single one, but I think some characters should definitely have it removed, and if it makes sense for a character to keep it, the damage scaling on anything that comes after it should be increased. It's proven to be such a consistently strong technique, and it's not a coincidence that a lot of the top tiers have it. The same goes for throw loops. I haven't seen a good argument for throw loops staying in, and they're just too oppressive. Plus the fact that they're not universal makes them too much of a fairy godmother blessing for any character who gets a good one. My recommendation would be making it so that anyone who does have throw loops should have to use drive gauge to get it. And it should just be strike throw mix up, not shimmy as well, unless you cut your drive rush short with a throw or something. I'd also like Capcom to take a closer look at the advantage some overheads get from drive rush. A lot of drive rush overhead combos are too strong for what they are in my opinion, especially when you tack on a level 3 super or a critical art. Whether it be increased damage scaling from drive rush overhead starter, or adjusting the frame data so that you can't link big buttons after it, I'd like to see something done there to tone down the strength of that technique. And lastly, there needs to be a shakeup at this point in time. We still haven't gotten a V-Trigger 2 or a Red Focus or anything of that nature. Again, I don't want changes for the sake of changes, but there needs to be something new to give fans a reason to want to explore the game more and breathe fresh air into a meta that feels like it's growing stale. Honestly, something like a V-skill for every character could really give Capcom an opportunity to reshape the game and rework some of the characters that currently feel bare bones and provide very little encouragement to play. Characters like Lily and E Honda could get some interesting new tools to vary up their kit and give them more interesting and dynamic playstyles. Call it Drive, Strike, or something, man. Just give us something new. We haven't had any recent updates from the Street Fighter 6 developers about what's coming, and when you compare that to something like the monthly check-ins from Riot's 2XKO team, it just makes the situation feel even more bleak. And nothing in the way Capcom is currently releasing content and updates is suggesting they're going to ramp up the speed and volume of said releases, which is also discouraging. Now, I've harped on this a lot at this point, and by now I'm just getting sick of talking about this. But Street Fighter 6 is suffering from a lack of content on the versus side of the game, and that is its second biggest problem. Capcom has been working on Outfit 4 since last year, according to their last statement on the matter, and now we're pretty much halfway through Season 3 with a lot more costumes still yet to be released. So far, we've only seen 9 Outfit 4 costumes out of 26 characters. Chun-Li, Luke, Jamie, Mano, Kimberly, Cammy, Aki, Juri, and Zangief have all received theirs, and there's still 17 to go. And the 26 doesn't count Sagat or Sea Viper because they don't even have Outfit 3 yet. The new DLC characters don't even launch with Outfit 3, and the rest of the cast is already on Outfit 4. The last batch of outfits to release was literally one costume, Mecha Zangief, and that single costume got its own trailer. We're literally at a point where one costume warrants a full trailer. Granted, there was a music crossover along with it, and that music crossover was badass. But like, okay? That's still not much of an excuse for a lack of costumes overall. If the game is selling well, 6 million copies last we saw, and the Avatar content seems like it's doing very well considering how much of it they put out, and the fact that the Avatar and Battle Hub modes are very popular, why not hire more people to work on the fighting ground side of things? The developers mentioned in their statement earlier that it takes a long time for them to make costumes right now, so why not expand that team to get this content out when a big chunk of the player base is literally begging you to release it so they can give you money? One point of speculation earlier on was that Capcom's resources were tied up in the development and launch of Monster Hunter Wilds, but that launched back in February of this year, and at this point should not have any kind of impact on Street Fighter 6's content development. And we know that Capcom can no longer really outsource their work like they did with Street Fighter V, hence the reason that game had so many costumes, because they're developing using their own internal RE engine, but I go back to what I said earlier. Hire more people to work on content for Street Fighter 6. By this point, it just feels like fans of the core versus side of Street Fighter 6 are being neglected, and releasing scattered special character colors that oftentimes require you to move away from playing the competitive modes altogether to get them just doesn't make up for it in my opinion. Look, I still love Street Fighter 6, man, and this video wasn't made to mindlessly bash it or to bash Capcom. It's because I enjoy this game so much that I'm giving my honest feedback about where the game currently feels like it is and what needs to change. A lot of fans want more out of this game, both from the meta and from its content. And right now, its lack of significant balance and system shakeups and its content drought for the versus side of the game are Street Fighter 6's two biggest problems. And these problems are making players lose interest. That is not good. Street Fighter 6 started out as a beacon of hope for a community that was wronged in a lot of ways by Street Fighter V. It hit the ground running with a ton of hype and a whole lot of praise, and at the helm were developers who had the people's wants and needs in mind. Developers that were openly communicating about their decision making and what's to come, showing just how strong their finger on the pulse of the community was. But as we get deeper and deeper into Street Fighter 6's lifespan, it's feeling like those early days are nothing but a distant memory. Maybe Capcom is remaining quiet right now because they are actually working on the rumored Super Street Fighter 6 update, complete with all kinds of changes and additional content. Or maybe we're just huffing that copium, and this is just the way things are going to be for the foreseeable future. How are you feeling about Street Fighter 6 right now? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video and are still watching, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and a big thank you to everyone who has been supporting the channel lately by subscribing and commenting on my videos. Y'all are the best and I appreciate you. I'll catch you in the next one.